Big Herc 916 Muscle Up. This is my car channel where I talk about nothing but cars and my passion. And I just pulled up to PRK out here in Mesa. It's an automotive shop that does a lot of classic car stuff, restoration stuff, engine building. We're gonna get into it, meet the owners, and yeah, man, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. PRK, www.prkautomotive.com.
Yes, CRZ. Yeah.
So I just walked in and here's one of the owners.
Hi, I'm Randy with PRK Automotive.
So how long you guys been in business here?
We've been in business 13 and a half years now.
Wow, that's a long time. So what kind of, what did you guys specialty? What do you guys specialize in?
GM.
GM?
Yep. So
Okay.
anything GM, Chevy, old school, preferably old school hot rods.
Okay.
Classics, that kind of stuff.
So you guys do like everything from like restoration to pro touring to engine
race cars.
to race cars.
Yep.
Engine swaps.
Engine swaps.
Okay.
Small block, big block, LS.
Okay. Yeah, because I got a lot of people that are always asking me, like, if I want to swap this from, like, say, a small block to an LS, who do you recommend, or how does that work, and all that stuff. So you guys do all that.
We recommend PRK.
There you guys have it, PRK. So moving from California to Arizona, it's been a headache trying to find good mechanics, and I actually met them at the gym, and I started talking. I seen the hat, and the hat kind of like, hey, man, T-shirt. So I figured.
When we run 4 deep at the gym, and we all have PRK something on.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to miss us.
So it's great branding on their part because I'm a car guy and I recognize. But yeah, I kind of want to, come by their shop. I've been meaning to come by for a while. So we're going to get a tour and kind of see like what they have going on here.
Okay.
So let's roll.
We just started at the front of the shop.
And this is
What's up, Kenny?
Kenny right here. So check this out. What are you guys doing with this?
So this one is a road race car. He races NASA, Time Attack, whole different series where they actually do twists and turns and not just go straight. This is a 6.0 that we built.
Okay.
Oh, is it a 6.2 LS3? It's a 6.2 LS3.
13-to-1 compression.
13-to-1 compression. It's pretty damn fast with a manual still. Polished imported heads. You name it. We've done it on this one.
Oh, that's a straight race car, you guys. Let's take a
Straight
look
race
inside. Look at this. Full cage. Everything. Wow. This is about the business right here. This is no joke. This is what I'm talking about when you're talking about, somebody who specializes in building something that you can actually take on the track. And they got some other cool stuff in here that's just stuff you could take on the road too.
Yeah, here's one that's super roadworthy. It's a built 6.2.
Oh shoot, it's got
with a
a
nice little turbo.
yeah.
Dual gas tanks. Custom tank so we can keep it cold, and then we also swap the suspension to 3500s. So 2500. So 3/4 ton suspension front and back.
So you have here, you guys. This is an Escalade right here. So they got 2006. So they got everything from race cars to trucks and everything in between. So this is pretty cool. A turbo Escalade. I haven't seen a turbo Escalade. I've seen supercharged, but this is the classic right here. This is when all the ballers out there were doing the rap videos, and this is kind of a sleeper because you wouldn't think that this thing is turboed.
This thing makes over 600 horse and over 700 foot-pounds to the wheels on pump gas.
Oh shit! Now this is the other owner right here,
Yes, sir.
Phil.
Phil.
Yeah. So Phil, me and him always chop it up in the gym, man. Sometimes it takes our workouts into another half hour, but we have.
Sometimes the workouts don't finish.
Yeah, exactly. So we have some great conversations, but yeah, we've always been kicking back, different ideas and stuff, and so I wanted to, like I said, get over here and see, and I haven't seen any other shops like since I've been out here that has this type of variety of builds in it. And this right here, oh man, this is sick.
Yeah, so we can go over this one.
This is what year is this?
60, is it 67? 60s. This is 60s caddy.
Wow,
63.
63.
63. So it came in with a different EFI system on it. We pulled that off, rebuilt the engine, reinstalled it. He got the aftermarket valve covers there so we could hide everything, hid all of the wiring because we build LS harnesses in-house.
Oh wow, you guys do them in-house?
Yes.
Damn, okay.
Tried to hide all of the battery cables and everything, make it as clean as possible. We're in the tuning stages right now, adding the secondary battery because it is on air ride and it has a system, so he needs as much as possible. And yeah, she's getting ready to go home.
This is sick. I like the older Cadillacs because you know it's a Cadillac. I
He's
mean,
actually a painter also locally.
oh wow, okay. I might have to holler at him. It's got a nice body on. I can see the paint job looks good.
Mm-hmm. And then this one is kind of our piece de resistance right now, the Fury.
So what are you guys doing with the Fury?
What didn't we do? So she's fully caged, back halved, new K-member.
Now what motor is in here?
This
This
is
is a Gen 3 Hemi, stroked out to 426 cubic inches.
Damn.
We built the full turbo system, engine, everything on this car. 1320 Industries did the chassis and the full cage. I'll lift it up. It's a full chromoly 25.2. It had a funny car cage in it. It was cert for a 6-second car.
Damn.
This will be on race gas and be probably around 1,400 horse to the wheels.
Ooh, shit. So this is a straight track car, not street?
Yeah, this is just
Okay.
track only.
Okay.
So this one actually just got running yesterday.
Okay. And what you running a Holley EFI on this?
It's a Holley Dominator system.
And what okay, Dominator system. What trans?
This is a 4L80E, so it's a GM
Oh, okay.
transmission.
Oh wow, to a Hemi?
Dodge.
To a Dodge, wow. What made him go with the 4L80E?
It's a lot stronger.
Okay.
The overdrive than any of the Dodge transmissions.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot more parts available for them.
Okay.
So you can see I did the turbos up inside the front wheel well.
Wow.
It utilizes the front headlights for air inlets.
That's badass.
And then as you look back here, 1320 Industries, who is our chassis guy, they did all the chassis,
Damn.
the cage, and the back half.
Wow.
Of the car, plus all the tint work.
That is sick.
So it is a legit race car, but it's still all metal panels. There's no fiberglass on it.
Wow.
So probably, I'm guessing probably 27 or 2,800 pounds.
Damn.
Pretty light
That is pretty light.
for a big boat.
So you put a lot into this car, man. Damn.
Sad part about this car, so it had a 440 big block with an automatic in it, and the whole bottom of this car was painted and pinstriped. Most of the drivetrain was chrome. It
Oh,
was,
wow.
It was a show car for years in the 80s out of Cali.
Okay.
And I guess from what we've been told, it was a really popular car in the Mopar world in California and SoCal for a long time before our customer bought it.
Okay.
It's a really nice car. If you look at it close, you can see that some of the paint's getting up there in age, but it's a beautiful car, straight, no Bondo.
And you know, it's funny, like these Dodges, you don't really see a lot of people at Rambler. I mean, it's not a very desirable Mopar in that world. It's rare.
One of the problems with them is a lot of these cars were raced very heavily back in the 60s.
Okay.
So they got destroyed. There's not a whole lot of them left around. And then in the Mopar world, you do see a lot of them, but they don't normally modify them quite like this.
Yeah, when I see them at the car show, they're pretty stock.
Right.
You know, and then you have a few that's on the strip and they're like way out there.
Right.
But
This kind of down the middle. This
Yeah.
is what you would see with a Chevy than you would with a
yeah,
most of your Mopar.
because I've been to Mopar shows and I had a couple. I had Charger, Challenger, but Rambler, I would never. You know, they're kind of cool, but in between, but they're not really hot yet on the market.
Well, these Furies were kind
Oh,
of
this is a Fury.
Yeah.
Fury. Okay, my bad.
almost the same.
Almost the same. It's similar body style, right?
very
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, but these were kind of like, these came out before the Chevelle and all that, and this was kind of your mid-size
Yeah.
car.
So would this be for the Chevy guys? It'd be more like a Nova.
Chevelle.
Chevelle, like okay, Chevelle.
Chevelle.
So it'd be in that same category.
I believe it would.
Okay. Because I know everybody had like like Oldsmobile had the Oldsmobile Cutlass, and 442 was like the Le Mans,
Yeah.
and then you had the Chevelle. They were all similar, competing, and then.
For Dodge, and I'm not a Dodge expert, but I believe like your Belvederes were like the Impala.
Oh, the luxury. That's right. That's right. Like the Galaxy for the Ford.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got you. Let me take a look at these wheels back here, because these wheels are, these are nasty. Oh man, that's badass. Fury, man. Never seen a Fury done up like this. Check out that cooler back here. Oh yeah, that's badass, you guys. So I noticed something on the Cadillac, and I wanted to ask them on camera what's their go-to EFI system, because I've had the Sniper one. I've ran like the ECU for like the older Silverados for like some of the LS stuff, and these guys do their own harnesses. So I'm gonna get some insight on what they feel is like the better EFI setup when you're resto modding or pro touring, your old school.
Okay, so our go-to system is always going to be stock first, depending on what the application is. Like in this, a stock GM computer with one of our harnesses is the way we're always going to go. Once we get into stuff with bigger horsepower, turbos, nitrous, superchargers, anything power adder, we're going to lean towards a Holley system.
Okay.
There's a lot of preferences out there. Holley's simpler to use for the beginner.
Okay.
To it. There's some more advanced systems that work really well, but usability isn't quite as simple.
What do you think about the Terminator X system?
So the new version Terminator works really well.
Okay.
The earlier stuff, they had a lot of bugs and quirks with those systems. They worked okay. The problem with them, there was a lot of small details that if you didn't know and you didn't install them correctly, you would have nothing but problems. But tunability wise, they weren't as versatile as the new version is. If it's a lightweight car, if it's a heavy car, I think you're talking about the Porsche, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't have a crazy cam. It's more like that motor is built just to kind of, just cruise.
So you'll have, as long as you're not having a heat soaking issue with the carburetor. One of the things like on this, it's got the plastic carburetor spacer to help dissipate the heat. We have tricks that we're doing now to try and combat the issue from the fuel.
Okay.
So it's really, for the most part, it's a car-to-car kind of basis, and it depends on the engine. Small block Chevys, we can make these run a lot cooler, and we can play with more timing compared to where if it's some of the Fords, Pontiacs, the cooling system wasn't as efficient, so the heads get much hotter, and then that complicates tuning these carburetors in and trying to keep the heat from them.
So I have another car, like say it has a 347 stroker with an AOD transmission, and I had a Sniper in that too, and it's same thing. The Sniper, the first generation, I got stuck a bunch of times. So with that, I haven't figured out what I'm gonna run yet for the actual fuel management. So I don't know. Would you recommend me going with like a Holley carb for that? It made on a carburetor. It made like 430 on the motor. So. I would think about going back to a carb because I want reliability, because I'm kind of scared now of EFI, So what would you recommend for something like that?
Then it kind of gets back to how much driving and what kind of driving. If you're planning on doing long road trips with it, I would go EFI. If it's going to be more of a weekend warrior, you're going to stay local for the most part, you could still do the carburetor, but again, you're just going to have to watch the tune-up in the vehicle, the temperature outside, and where you're getting your gas from.
Gotcha. So, okay.
I am not a big fan of the early Sniper systems. And being a dealer and trained by Holley, there's tricks to make them work correctly, but there is some definite issues with those early systems, which is why they're making a new version of it.
So I noticed they have a Sniper 2 out, and you said that system is a little bit better?
Yeah, that's the one that has a separate ECU.
Okay.
And they've changed up some things to fix a lot of those little problems that the earlier systems had.
Okay.
And they have more capability than what the early Snipers did. A lot of those early Snipers, people would get frustrated because they bought it thinking they're going to have all the capability of a normal Holley EFI system, and then found out that it didn't have it. So they didn't have boost control. They didn't have nitrous control. A lot of those add-ons weren't capable in those early systems that they are now.
I was just curious too, because you know, like, man, I spent so much money on that damn Sniper one, man. I could have bought like probably 5 carburetors, you know, going to guys, oh, I can tune it, and then it wouldn't drive right. So as far as bang for the buck, are the newer, because I do a lot of research just on YouTube watching guys, is the newer carburetors, the ones that are coming out now, it looks like they technology advanced, are they better perform, you know what I mean?
So those newer carburetors are calibrated for the modern fuels.
Okay.
But if you have an old car, an old carburetor, those were not calibrated to run methanol fuel. They were calibrated for old leaded, high octane fuel.
Okay.
Some of those carburetors can be modified, jetted, and changed up to run better with the modern fuel, but a lot of times it's so expensive it's not worth doing it. So you're better off either going EFI or buying a different car.
So if somebody like rebuilt, like I said, this motor's been rebuilt, dynoed, it's all like, and it was, I imagine they tuned it on 91 on the dyno machine. So
You're
for people,
probably okay.
okay, that's what I want to know. Like, people out there probably asking the same questions. Like, man, if I got a newer motor, but I kind of like old school carb, and I'm, you know, it's everything's been updated. Can I get that? Can I get that performance and reliability?
The new carburetors are set up for it.
Okay.
And that's my fault. I guess I should have said that at the beginning. The earlier carburetors that were made before this modern fuel comes out, that's where you're going to run into the
Got you. The older people who keep everything original, all the old stuff,
Right.
rather than if you did a full
Restored.
rebuild.
Correct.
Okay, got you.
These newer carburetors, they're set up. They know that the fuel's like that. Now, you do still have the heat soaking problem, so heat is still going to be an issue.
Okay.
But these are going to have larger fuel passages, sometimes idle air bleed passages to deal with this new fuel.
Got you.
Where with the older carburetors, you're not, unless you want to really spend the money to modify that carburetor. But at that point, you'd be better off just buying a new version of that carburetor.
Got you. Okay.
So this is another project that we have underway. This is a 65 C10.
Oh, this is sick.
These are my headers that we're building, full
Wow.
system, twin turboed, 406 cubic inch LS. And this truck's going to get road raced.
Damn.
So we're not quite there yet, but it has, it'll have independent race seats in it with a center console, caged. It's going to be a handful.
So what type of horsepower are they looking at from this?
This will be between 800 and 1,000 to the wheels.
Wow. And this has a custom chassis too, I imagine?
Yeah, I can lift it back up. It is a modified factory chassis.
Okay. So, like, as far as ECU for this, what is this running to control, like, to run the turbos and stuff?
This is going to run a Holley Terminator system.
Wow. Okay. And typically, like, somebody that's, you know, looking to get like a custom build at this level, how long does something like this take? Because I know it's a lot of fabrication. Dude, this is like...
So this is the magic question. I do not give timelines.
Okay.
Let me lift this up and I'll explain it a little bit.
Okay.
Timelines are a great way to get everybody mad at each other and start a big problem. It's impossible to give a timeline on a full custom build. There's 2 different kinds of builds. There's modified cars and there's custom cars. Modified cars means you're starting with a car, kind of like this Cadillac, that for the most part's already done. You're doing an engine swap. You're doing more basic bolt-ons. When you get into a full custom build like this truck or the Fury, these generally are going to be a 2 to 3 year build. Now, people think that's a long time, but you got to remember, in between waiting for parts, waiting for painters, we have to take in other work in between then to keep the shop up and going. So when the parts come back from powder coat, from paint, from wherever they're out at, it doesn't mean we're going to stop everything we're doing on other cars to then get back onto your car. And also, honestly, ever since COVID, we're still having problems getting parts. Parts availability still is not what it used to be. On general, though, a full custom fabbed car, you're going to be 2 to 3 years out. Yeah. For an engine swap car, depending on how extensive you're going to get, it could be 6 months to a year.
Okay.
But again, where we run into problems is when we have paint and body, powder coat, sandblasting, or any machine shop stuff, any of those kind of factors that we don't have any control over. In between, when we don't have possession of the car, we have to keep work coming in.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of other variables that go into it, but people forget that we have to keep the doors open to keep work coming in between the time that we're waiting for these other factors on these other builds.
Yeah.
So when it does come back, stopping everything to get back on one car may be impossible at that point. So we might have a car that comes back and we're ready to get going on it again, but it might be 2 weeks to a month before I can get back onto that car.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of like relay to people when they think like, you know, oh, that car, man, it's a 4 or 5 year build. Well, in between, like, say, if you guys do like a lot of the, say, modification stuff and then have to go to paint, it might be in paint for a year.
Exactly.
You know,
You don't
so
have control over it.
no. And then by the time you get back, it's not like as soon as it gets in the shop, today we're starting.
Right.
It might be another 2 to 3 months before you can even touch that car.
So a good example is like on the Fury. That's a lot of chassis work. That thing rolled in here stock chassis. It was about 14 months worth of fabrication work on that.
Wow.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
We had a 63 split window Corvette that was paint took a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then the interior took.
Yeah, and then interior took another year for full custom, 7 different kinds of Italian leather. I mean,
Damn.
The higher the vehicle build is, the more time it's going to take.
Yeah.
It's one reason why I don't watch those TV shows.
Yeah.
If you want to watch
Oh, I know.
fake
I know.
garbage TV,
I know.
watch those shows. And those TV shows are what makes everybody think this can be done in 6 months.
Well, you know,
It's
too,
not gonna happen.
that turned the hot rod hobby into something out of control.
Well, the other problem with it too, just like with all those motorcycle shows that came out in the 90s,
Yep.
everybody jumps on the bandwagon. I apologize. They want to get involved in this, but they don't really know anything about what goes into building a car, building a motorcycle. If they have some money in their pocket,
Yeah.
they think they're going to pay somebody to build them a car, they're going to turn around and be a millionaire off of building this car.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now,
It doesn't work like that.
if you want to make a small fortune building cars, start with a large fortune.
Yeah.
Because your chances of making money off of this is pretty rare.
We aren't rich yet.
Yeah.
And then you get into the auction stuff. I don't recommend buying cars at auctions unless it's an auction that you can fully inspect the vehicle.
Yeah.
Most of what shows up at auctions are cars that are polished up, painted, they look really good from 10 feet away. Then when you get it home, you find out you bought a big pile of, you know what, for way too much money.
Slapping lipstick on a pig.
There are people, especially in this valley, all they do is pull cars out of people's yards, spend a year putting time and money into it to make it drive, have a nice paint job and interior, to then go at these big auctions and sell it, and that's how they make their money for the year.
Hey, you know a catch-22 to that? Because I go to a lot of those auctions, and I'm right there with you, is that this car, fresh build, barely 400 miles. Why don't it have 400 miles? Because it ain't been broken in, and there's a lot of things that, you know, could go wrong.
So the 63 Vet that we had, our customer bought that car at one of the big auctions here for $95,000, drove it 5 miles, and the dash caught on fire.
Woo, what the
We
hell?
got it in here and looked at it. Everything they said about the car was false. The chassis
Oh
wasn't
my
even
God.
matching to the body. So the 63 Vet he thought that he bought that was all numbers matching was a
Oh
thrown-together
my
car.
God.
We ended up stripping that whole car down and starting all over again. And the amount of problems we found on it, and it wasn't just his car. We've had, in the 14 years we've been doing this, I'd say 50, 60 cars from auctions. Not all of them are bad, don't get me wrong. Some guys, they score a nice deal, but I'd say more than half of them end up being huge problems that then people are turning around trying to sell. And you'll see these same cars pop back up
Yep.
Every
at
couple
the
of
auction.
years.
And then those of us that work on these kind of cars, our name will get attached to it because when they give them the file of all the paperwork, they go, oh, PRK worked on this car. They call us up,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
we're like, oh, man, so you don't know the story on this car. And you start telling about it, and you go, oh, well, I was told this was a full frame off, and it's a beautiful...
Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't a full frame off. So you really got to watch it. If you're going to buy something for that kind of cash from an auction, take somebody with you that can look at it and verify what you're actually buying.
And,
For hire.
and you know, too, hey, yeah.
And we
you're-
do that.
Yeah, we'll go if you guys want us to go look at cars.
Also, we have a
We'll
lot of
bring 'em in.
customers that will bring us cars that they're interested in buying, and we will look them over inside and out and let them know if what they're buying is worth the money.
And that goes
what
with
they're
daily
getting
drivers too. Like, we had a lady just a couple weeks ago bought us 2 different cars to look at because she's going to put her dad in them, you know, an elderly man, and she wanted to make sure that the car was safe enough for him to drive to and from the grocery store and the golf course.
Yeah.
We will still do some daily driver stuff. We're very picky about what we will and won't do on that side, but vehicle inspections are something.
And you know, too, the integrity of like the whole classic car industry, because of, like you said, these shows on the internet, you know, whether you're watching Gas Monkey, Dennis Collins, or some of these Haggerty,
Pimp My
or
Ride.
you know, Pimp My, some of these stuff. People are passionate about building cars, and there are a lot of shops that know that. And I've talked about this with you before, where they'll have one car in the shop, and when you go in there, you see that car, and that car kind of like, wow, you can do this, and they get your car in there. and then it gets trapped in mechanics prison. And it's like it's a nightmare. And a lot of these guys don't really know what they're doing, and they're outsourcing a lot of the stuff, and they're not actually doing the work. They're like, oh, we do this, we do that, we do this. And your car, you find out it's been in 3 shops in the same city.
And it was, they used your car to practice and learn how to
Yes.
do what they're selling.
Yes.
Again, in the 14 years we've been open, there's probably 20 shops that aren't around anymore that were doing similar things to what we are, and that was the absolute problem. They didn't actually know what they were doing.
Yeah.
I try not to get involved in this. There's still some shops that we work with. There's a lot of shops I won't touch anything that they've worked on.
Wow.
Because I don't want to be that middleman to then turn around and tell the customer that they got screwed and the whole car needs to be redone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very scandalous business, and I've even going on Yelp, looking at the reviews, and went to a shop and got beat out of $8,000. And then the lady actually told me, you want this car from 1982 to drive like it's 2024. I'm like, yeah.
So here's the other bad thing about Yelp and Google and all that. If you go on ours, and feel free to, you're going to see a lot of negative comments, because the problem with a lot of that is the people that normally make comments are the ones that don't know what they're talking about anyways, and their reality compared to what was actually going to happen didn't match, if that makes any sense. People don't like to hear the truth, and I think one of our issues here is I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, and you can either listen to me or not listen to me, but at the end, when the problem arises that I told you was going to arise, you can't MF me because I already told you about it. But we've had comments on social for people
biggest,
we've never even worked on their cars. Or with
the
Randy,
biggest asshole in the business
with being a female,
because I'm a girl.
Anytime she says something to somebody, even hey, we can't do it this way, we don't do it this way, automatically, she has an attitude.
Yeah.
Well,
Or I
no,
don't know what I'm doing. I
she's-
don't know. I haven't been in the business long enough. I'm just a receptionist up front, and I take your money and order parts.
So I
don't
wouldn't
know
even
what I'm doing.
say Google is not Google, Yahoo, all
Yelp,
those things.
whatever.
None of them are really good examples of what kind of work they do. The best thing you can do is ask actual customers.
Yeah.
Go to the shop, walk around, talk to people, see what's in the shop. But really, honestly, if you're going to spend that much money in a shop, if they won't let you talk to prior customers that have done big builds, we're not talking about intake swap and wheels and tires. If you're going to pay to have a full build done, talk to somebody else that's had a big build done at that shop. You're going into a relationship with a shop. You're not.
Yeah.
This isn't. This isn't a water pump on a Honda Civic.
Yeah.
When these cars are done, we're going to have months into getting this thing right, and tuning it in, and making sure that it works correctly. Yeah. So it's not going to be I'm going to pick my car up and I'm never going to see these people again.
Well, I tell people it's almost like getting engaged, because it's a relationship you're building, and it's very emotional. Like cars are like, it's like dating, man. I mean, you're putting parts. It's like taking a girl out to dinner. You're buying her clothes. You're building a house together. I mean, the time and money you spend, it adds up. And then when you're not getting, you're thinking, well, they told me this and they didn't do that, and it's like it can become very confrontational. And then a lot of times, like you said, you can't really go off of Yelp, because I got burnt on Yelp. And personally, going and getting to know the person, if they're really passionate about cars, or are they money grabs? Like they just do it enough to where they can make some money, but they don't really love the, they're not into the game.
And that's the other interesting thing too. Again, back to the whole TV show ruining a lot of this. A lot of these shops, when you go in and talk to them, 10 years ago, they were selling cars, washing dishes, working at McDonald's. And you go, well, when did you start working on this stuff? Well, I'm not, I just got into it about 5 years ago. I started turning wrenches when I was like 12 years old on go-karts, motorcycles. I'm an ASE Master Tech. I was a GM Master Tech. Worked on both sides of this industry. You can't modify and make something better if you don't know how it works in the first place.
That's right.
Google is another thing that's ruined this industry, because everybody thinks, well, if I take on a job and I can't figure it out, I'll just Google it. I'll figure out my way through it. Well, you got to know the basics and have the tools and knowledge to do this.
And you have to know how to reverse engineer.
Exactly.
A lot of people just, if it's not on an iPad and they didn't learn it at UTI, I mean, they don't really, like, they weren't brought up with the old school, like you said, wrenching, dialing in carburetors,
We have a big gap in skills nowadays, because you have all these kids that grew up sitting on the couch playing video games on their iPads. we've had kids that have come in here to be apprentices that are 18, 19 years old. You ask them for a crescent wrench, they hand you a hammer.
You ask
But
them
they're-
to mop or sweep,
and
and
they
they
don't know-
create a lake on the floor.
They don't know how to mop. And then they're telling me how they're going to own a performance shop. And then they're asking me, well, when did you start doing this? And then I started using hand tools when I was like 6, 7 years old on a bicycle. You know?
Yeah.
These are basic skills that you're way behind the 8 ball on. But then some of these people get people to invest in them because they did an engine swap in the backyard, and everybody's parents are impressed with the fact that, you know, wow, this guy really knows what he's doing. Well, he does, but he's still got a lot to learn. But next thing you know, somebody gives him a bunch of money to go start a business, and now he's Joe Cool, the car builder.
Yeah.
And then to go back on relationships, like if you came in here, one, I'm gonna know everything about you. I'm gonna know your wife's name, your kids' names, where they go to school, how many dogs do you have? I'm gonna ask you about your dogs. I got customers that send me pictures of their dogs. I know the Escalade. That's what, like the 4th, 5th car we've done with him, and we've got 2 more of his coming in because he's
been
a big
one of
car
our
guy.
customers since we were about a year old.
Oh, wow.
We're constantly building cars.
And see that right there, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's what I'm talking about. Like now, if you brought 4 cars to the same spot, I know that there's something there as far as your integrity. Because I got a guy, I'm not going to say no names, but one and done. Once people get out of there, they're like, oh my God, I escaped.
Right.
I'm finally out of that shop. I'm done.
Well, this is a good friend of mine. I've been building cars for him since we were 16 years old.
See?
And he lives in another state, and this is the second vehicle we've done for him. This is another shop owner's car. This isn't a high-end build. This is just a driver for him. But you know, this one's done. He has another one right behind that he's coming to us.
And he's got other his customers that he's sending to us.
The gentleman with the
for
Fury
someone.
has a large car collection. This is one of the big jobs we've done for him, but we've worked on 4 of his vehicles. We don't do a lot of advertisement because a lot of ours is word of mouth and repeat business from customers we already have.
Well, you know, I get a lot of people on my, social media, like asking about engine swaps, asking about just, if I have a car and I want to get like a, full build, who do you recommend? And that's a big thing because, like you said, you see all this stuff on Instagram and it looks good. You see the car rolling and it sells you on the bling bling. But you get to that shop and you never talk to, like you said, a customer. And then once you get in there, then you start, you catch another customer on the way out. And it's like, yeah, man, my car, man's been here for 2 years, man, these dudes. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, man, what'd I get myself into?
And that's what I'm saying. Like on Google and Yelp, you can post whatever you want. A lot of these shops you go to and you read, it's actually kind of funny because we'll do this. You'll go on there and you read these comments and these reviews. Well, then if you do a little investigation, you find out it's a brother or cousin. They're related to them,
You're right. You're right.
And even the bad reviews, a lot of times you read them and you laugh because you're like, I know that is not what the situation was whatsoever. Like, people are just twisting stuff to make them look better and make the shop look like crap.
Well, and then you got the buyer remorse thing, which is a huge thing. When you have people that are trying to have you build a car that really can't afford to build the car, and then when it's all said and done, they're just going to find problems and things that they want to complain about because they're mad they spent the money.
Yeah.
But what we always say is nobody held a gun to your head and told you to spend the money. And when you're paying the invoice every month as we go, at any point in time, you're welcome to say, hey, I need to change this up. I can't spend this much, whatever the case may be. But to get to the end and then complain about how much money you spent, well, you're in control of that. And that should be with any shop. You're in control of how much money you spend. At any given time, you should be able to say, hey, man, we're getting way over where we're at. I need to know what's going on, why I'm spending this money, and what our end game is.
And there's been a lot of invoices where, like, the big picture was this, and we get partway through, and they're like, whoa, you know what? Something happened at home. Something happened with one of the kids. I need to... And we veer off to the side a little bit.
And
we'll reassess, rechange, and then keep going forward. So we've
not a
even
cheap
had to
hobby.
stop and just,
And one of the big problems too with these big builds and the time frame, whenever we start a build, we always start with the same thing. We have to pick a plan that we're going to do with this car and stick to it. Every time we change as we go, it causes the build to not only get more expensive, but it can cause the build time to extend. This car originally started out, we were going to do a Hellcat swap, and it was going to get mini tubbed.
Oh, shit.
3 years later, we're so far from what the original idea was.
Yeah.
Now,
It's a race car.
It's a badass car, but this is a prime example of us escalating quickly from what the original plan was.
Yeah.
Then you have stuff like this Camaro. This was a car that's been done for a long time, and this had a LS1 in it. This car was probably swapped back when LS swaps were fresh. We just redid this. This is a
Oh man, it's got an LT.
it's a crate LT4,
Wow.
and this just made about 700 horsepower in factory trim in this car.
Damn, 700 on pump gas.
Pump gas.
Wow. Yeah, 'cause you could run a lot of boost on these, right?
Yeah, they're very capable. And then this is also running a Holley system, but everything engine-wise is as it came out of the crate.
Wow. And so you still got a factory warranty with the motors too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is the other thing. We do build custom engines, anything from stock restoration engines to full race engines, but it's getting really tough to beat these crate engines with the warranties they have.
Wow.
We have a small block in a crate back here that's for customer C10. I can't build a small block Chevy as nice as what that Blueprint engine is.
Oh yeah.
With
Yeah,
the
Blueprint's
warranty.
big. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and we've dealt with them. Like every other business, you know, sometimes you have things that happen and you got to take care of it. We had one Blueprint engine that had a failure on startup that was their fault. I'll tell you what, that company was on the ball with helping us out.
Wow.
They sent us everything. They took care of it. It was no issues with them, and they didn't try and point fingers at all. The problem was taken care of.
Now, can you still get these? Because I know these are pretty hard to get. Can you still get these out from GM?
This one we got, what, about a year ago?
Customer got
Customer
this.
got it about a year ago.
Yeah.
I
and
believe-
it sat here for a while. I think he did get it from a dealer.
These are like a lot of other things right now.
Because these were in the Corvette Z06s.
And the Camaros.
That's right. That's right.
A lot of this stuff now gets to be, you'll get inventory in spurts.
Yeah.
So you'll go for a short amount of time, you can get it, and then all of a sudden it dries up and it takes a while to get it. I can tell you, all of your Gen 4 LSs, it's about impossible to get a stock LS block from a dealer. They don't have them.
And you know, I know it had got to a point where too you have to almost be connected to have, like when a guy, hey man, I got like 4 of these in, and then they'll like try to, you know.
We would have our contacts at the dealer call us, say, hey, if you're looking for an LS3 block or whatever, there's 2 left, and we can get it. The Fury, that's an original Hellcat block. That was the last one in the country where we got that.
Damn. So how much, like, say, if somebody wanted to just, you know, pick up one of these, for, you know, fresh out the crate, you know, how much would this? Did this come with a tranny too?
No.
Okay, so just the motor. How much would this run?
I believe this came fully dressed for about 15 to 18,
Wow.
which seems like a lot, but you're getting everything.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, that's not. I mean, I spent over 10 on mine, with not
So
including
us car
ECU.
guys, it's not, but people
Yeah.
get that sticker shock, and they're like, man, that much money? Well, if you buy a long block, by the time you buy throttle body intake, all of your accessories, injectors, everything else, you're
Yeah.
gonna go over that anyway.
Easy. That's what I'm saying. I'm doing the math. And you said 15 now. Okay, you're going to spend now. What kind of tranny? What tranny you have on there?
He has a T56 in it. It was already in the car.
Okay,
so we didn't have to
T56.
change anything.
Okay, so yeah, man. I mean, because like I said, shit, just to, and I forgot, like you said, I had an engine built, and it was over 10 grand. But then I had to get all the other stuff. I had to do the intake. I had to do some other stuff. You know.
We'd laugh because somebody will bring us a car and they're like, I got all the big stuff. So all the expensive stuff's taken care of. We go, okay, what do you have? I got my engine, my transmission, I got my motor mounts, my headers.
And a radiator.
That's not the expensive part. The expensive part is the hoses, the belts,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fluids, the spark
Yeah.
plugs, the wires, the sensors.
Yeah.
And then one of the big increases in builds nowadays is because of inflation, it's the labor rate.
Yeah.
So our labor rate has gotten so much higher too that's why we always encourage customers, if you can do some work, pull the engine out, clean your engine compartment,
Paint it.
do as much as you can, because if I got to do it, it's going to be a lot more money.
That's right. That's right.
So we are one of those shops. We will work with people to try and do builds, but it's like anything else.
700 horsepower, huh?
Yeah, so the first pull on this before it was even dynoed, it made 660 to the wheels.
Damn. That means to the crank, that's like 800 some horsepower. About 8.
It's a lot more than what GM says.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember like hearing about these. I'm like, okay, I remember they actually undervalued the horsepower with the Zeal, because these things are hot.
So on average, your rear wheel horsepower is going to be anywhere from about 50 to 80 horsepower difference, depending
okay.
on what you're doing.
Okay.
With a manual transmission, it's a lot less than it is with an automatic.
And
But
what?
general rule of thumb, usually everybody just adds 100 to it, and
Okay.
you're in the ballpark.
Okay, that's what I kind of figured. Now, what suspension?
This has a QA1 4-link kit.
Gotcha, I got you. Okay, and what do they have up front? Like the same thing that
This,
tubular control arms and all that stuff?
This is actually a Chassis Works full front tubular kit with tubular control arms, all coilover.
Okay, because I know a lot of people put Detroit Speed, or they run Speed Tech, has some stuff.
And depending on the vehicle, you can get away with just doing control arms, coilovers, and springs, and they'll still handle really well. Some vehicles, it's a different story, like Novas. First gen Novas, they were never meant to be a performance car. So if you're going to do anything with it, you need to change out the whole suspension package. Your first and second gen Camaros, these things work pretty well. Even from the factory. So even if you went with leaf springs and shocks and some good tubular control arms and spindles, you don't have to do everything and still be able to get the performance out of it that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's what's cool about the Camaros and why so many people do them. I had a 67 convertible, and like you said, just with tubular control arms, coilovers, the thing handled like it was decent.
But you're talking about a car that was they engineered to be able to do Trans Am racing and a lot of the other factory stock racing in. Where again, if you buy a car that was never meant like that, like a first gen Nova, that was for the most part, a 6-cylinder gross getter. They weren't planning on it.
It's almost like the Comet, Ford Comet. Same thing. Like you got to do so much to make that car really handle. Because the Falcons too.
You can do it.
I mean, Mercury Comet, Ford Falcon. I'm thinking.
Which again, like when you're getting into a project, you really need to. You should pick a car that you like that's close to what you're going to do with it. Because the farther away from that, if you're going to build a 54 Chevy Bel Air and you want to road race it, you're obviously going to have a lot of stuff you're going to have to do to road race it. So you're always good to do the research and figure out what car you can get that you can do what you want to do and has off-the-shelf parts. Once we start getting into custom fabrication, things go up in price fast. Real fast. Like these big Cadillacs and Lincolns, these are the cars that a lot of people think they're going to swap really cheap. These are one of the worst cars to swap.
That's a big car, man. That's a lot of weight. So people, you got to...
But I'll show you why these are horrible. So these cars from the factory, the engine and tranny sat really low and far forward. Well, why'd they do that? So you have all this leg room because you're sitting on this big couch in here, right? So when you get under the hood, the way they did this one, they actually did a really good job. But a lot of these aftermarket kits, to clear all the factory AC, it pushes this engine way forward. You end up with less space between here than you do on a factory Corvette.
Wow.
Then you have this huge gap back there. You have oil pan and exhaust problems. If you want to try and retain the factory air conditioning on these cars, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but by the time you're done and the amount of money you've spent to make it work, it's a nightmare. This car's airbags, you can't drop much lower than this unless we take this engine and we move it up.
I gotcha.
So when we do that, I have to cut the whole floor,
tunnel
out of this car, and I raise it up. Well, then I got to make sure I clear this hood. But then I got to raise the seats, or I got to modify the seats.
You're right, because everything comes up. You're right.
Because again, if you look in this, there's not much of a transmission tunnel because everything hung down. You know, I mean, that hump is relatively nothing, especially in the back here, because they were all about that leg room. They weren't trying to make this a performance car.
You know, it's crazy. I look at this car, man. It's like, this was like America at its high point, luxury though. This was like a cruise. I mean, you'd pack up like 3 or 4 kids and you drive from here to New York.
Every time we drive one of these, I could fall asleep driving this car.
It's just like, dude, you're floating, huh?
You look over to the passenger, you're like, man, how's the weather on that side of the car?
I learned how to drive in a Cadillac. My grandma had like the Coupe de Ville, like a 76. And that was where I took my driver's test in. So,
I remember back when they didn't seem that big.
Huh?
Like back in the old days, those cars didn't seem...
No, it didn't seem that big.
But it didn't seem that big. Now you're like, good Lord.
You can't even fit this in the garage. A typical car house today, the garage can't fit this.
You get winded walking from the front to the back.
You
got to work on your cardio so you can drive this.
Since I said we have custom harnesses in here, I actually built all of them. And this is one that I'm working on right now for a friend of ours. It's going to go in a 69 Camaro he's building. So everything's show car loomed, nice and tight. Try and keep it special. Each one I do a little bit different, just depending on what your application is. Like he's doing I think it's a Holly high ram. So he wanted the harness to be underneath the intake, just like I did on the Caddy. So make the injectors a little bit longer, the coil pack longer, so that it'll sit literally underneath the intake, come out between the runners, and get plugged in. So all you really see is like this. That's it. Just a little bit of wiring. Try and keep everything like as thin as possible so it's clean. And then, and I've done some crazy ones for rails where the intake's backwards. MAFs are coming out of the center because I want it to sit over here. Like, you name it, I could put a sensor wherever we need to. So
Cool. I know that's a big part of the game is the wiring harnesses, like, because there's only a handful of people that really know what the hell they're doing. And I've heard guys like, man, who got your harness? Who did your harness for you? You know, especially a lot of guys with like the trophy trucks and stuff.
yeah. And there's a lot of big companies that make them now. You know, they started out as small companies and now they've grown and they're selling theirs commercially and stuff. But it's a harness done one specific way. I think, don't quote me on it, but I think I might be one of the only places that actually makes a truly custom harness
Wow.
to fit your needs. I can change. You could use a Gen 3 block. Well, yeah, you could use a Gen 3 block as a Gen 4 or vice versa. I could put knock sensors wherever we need to. You know, if you need to put them in the valley, you want them on the side, different O2 sensors. So I have the ability to pretty much change anything.
Wow, that's dope. And so where can people find you guys as far as social media?
So social media, we've got Facebook and Instagram. Those are pretty much the only ones I actually use because I can cross post. And so it's PRK Automotive on either one if you search us. Or on Google. Just don't read those reviews.
Yeah, and you guys hit me up if you want to roll through this shop. I can introduce you personally to the owners. These are good people. I plan on bringing a couple of my cars here once I get them back to Arizona. And yeah, man, hit that like, hit that subscribe button.
Oh, yeah, we have YouTube too.
Oh, YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, you can. I mean, not that I post on there, but I'll.
Okay. I'll put the link in the description. I'll get the link from you guys. All right, you guys, muscle up. Visit BigHerc916.com to pick up a limited edition GTA poster signed by me for $10, or with your purchase of a Wig Splitter Porsche t-shirt, I'll throw in a free poster.
The popos are coming. I gotta hurry up and wash my ass. Go to BigHerc916.com, pick you up a bar of soap, and wash your ass, or else you're gonna be under arrest too. Oh shit.